So the human mind is a vast and complex space that can be shaped and influenced by different things that we learn from birth, essentially. And because of that, we each process information and retain knowledge in different ways. And along that line, the process by which we figure out what study habits work best for us and what doesn't work best for us is something that every student has to go through individually, as there's no one-size-fits-all study habit. I myself have been a student for the majority of my life. I still am a student, and I have, through the trial and error method, found what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And in this speech, I will tell you about my study habits and specific needs that they address for me and how they came to be as a result of outside influences. So first, let's talk about my primary study habit, repetition. I do this by either looking through my notes or making flashcards, and this method of study for me is best when the information that I need to learn is very language-based, it's very term-based, it's kind of like memorization, regurgitation kind of study method, and it addresses my need as a linguistic learner for words more so than images or anything like that, because by reading words I'm better able to remember things than if I were to watch a video or do an activity. Admittedly, repetition-based learning, a la like flashcards and notes, is not the best for long-term memory. It's a very result-based, get to the quiz and that's it kind of study method, but it's still my most efficient form of studying as of the moment. And the way that this came to be was when I was in elementary school. The importance of standardized tests was very, very high, and it was very much based upon how much you could memorize the vocabulary for the English test, how much you could memorize your multiplication tables. It was all very like memorization based, and that led me to the habit of making study cards and reading through my notes again. I've begun to phase away from this, and what I've been doing now is doing practice problems out of subjects that require it, like chemistry and math, because I'm still repeating the concepts, the overarching concepts, but not so much the specific material that was mentioned in the notes themselves, because by doing that, I'm able to better prepare myself for what's going to be on the test, because the requirements in college are slightly different, and they're not so much like fill in the bubble, ABCD based. Now that I've told you about the primary study habit, let's move on to the more unorthodox one, food. So my hindbrain, I've come to realize around middle school, is very food driven. I need something to occupy my need to like constantly intake something like fluids or like small snacks to keep my mind grounded and focused and to keep it from running off into the clouds somewhere as I'm studying. And this comes with risks, because the amount of time that I study now in college is very long. And if I'm constantly snacking, this is going to lead to overeating and indigestion, and I'm going to have to go to the doctors. So nowadays, I just kind of keep a mug of tea on my desk. And when I have to get up and refill that mug, it's a good break from the study and the monotony of my room as well. And it also keeps my brain grounded, and it's not like, oh, this is so long, I don't want to be here. It's very much... it's not so much an information intake study habit, but it's an endurance of study time kind of habit. And finally, let's move on to the most enjoyable study habit, which is studying with people. By studying with people, specifically my friends, we're able to keep ourselves accountable for staying on task in an environment where we know that we trust each other and there's no academic hostility going on about, I have to beat this person in grades. So inevitably, we're going to go off topic at some point, we're going to end up joking, but that's also good because it provides a break from the studying. And there's always going to be one person who realizes that we've been on off topic for a long time and that we need to bring it back. So it's a good reality check to have someone there, because if I was by myself, I would, one, have extreme anxiety about what I was doing, whether it would be correct or not, and I would get off topic and stay off topic. So by studying with other people, I'm able to get my homework done more correctly and more quickly, because there's a motivation to be, when you're with other people, you don't want to be falling behind, and there's always like, you have to do it, and for some reason for me that makes my processing go a little bit faster, and I'm able to come to conclusions more quickly than if I were to study alone. And to sum things up, today I share with you my study habits and how they address my specific learning needs as both a linguistic learner and someone whose mind runs like a mile a minute. And my learning capability relies heavily on things that both directly address my academic requirements for that week or that month and maintain my mental focus for the time that I am studying. And the little drinks and the repetition combined in any order with studying with people are how I have found that I study the best. And it's, at this point, it's still a work in progress, but at this point, it's how I study. Thank you. People dab me.